I got an email from a reader asking how I can leave my husband and these 2 dogs and travel alone on these solo camper van road trips. Don't I feel guilty, she asked. The truth is, I do feel guilty. There's nothing easy about leaving your family to go and follow the path that you feel like you were called to do or that you really, really want to do. I've found 3 or 4 ways to work through the guilt and shame. Whether you're leaving your family to go on a work conference, a writer's retreat, a cake decorating competition, or maybe you're actually leaving for good. Maybe you found that your marriage or your relationship isn't working out anymore and you really have to follow a new path. It's hard, and sometimes the relationships that are affected when you leave are irreparable. They don't actually get fixed. I moved to Africa for 3 years. That move created such a big rift between me and my sister that it actually was never the same. And it may happen in your life too. You may find that whatever you're leaving to pursue in your life may cause irreparable damage in your relationship, and you may wonder if it's worth it. I don't know if it's going to be worth it or not. I don't know if it was worth it for me to go to Africa, for instance, and damage my relationship with my sister. Actually, the truth is, it was worth it. I'm really glad I went. I had so many good experiences going that I know that it was the right thing to do. So I want to share 3 or 4 tips for coping with guilt when you're leaving your family. First tip is to know that it's hard. It does feel like you're turning your back, even though you're sort of turning towards something that's more important, which is hard to say, but it's more exciting, it's more fulfilling, it's something that you're drawn to do. So I encourage you to just acknowledge and sit with that. I had to do it. I had to sit with the fact that it's really hard to go off by myself for 2 or 3 weeks and leave my husband, but it's worth it. My second tip for coping with guilt for leaving is to recognize where the guilt is coming from. Are you feeling guilty because, for instance, a reader emailed and said, how can you leave your husband and go off on these road trips? That made me feel really guilty. Family and friends feel the same way. And I know that my husband sometimes thinks that, and I sometimes think that. What I have to do is differentiate between when I'm feeling guilty for my own valid reasons, appropriate guilt, or when I'm taking on other people's guilt or disapproval or even their shame. And I have to be able to separate how somebody feels and what they think and believe from what I feel and what I think and believe. Simply recognizing where the guilt or disapproval is coming from can help you move forward and deal with it. The third way I cope with guilt is to look at the actual thought that's making me feel bad or is making me suffer. For instance, I used to think that my husband would be better off with me here, and then I questioned that thought. So is it really true that my husband is better off with me here? If I stayed and felt angry, resentful, impatient, frustrated because I really want to go on these road trips and I really have this path I want to pursue, if I stayed, would he really be better off? Would the dogs be better off? Would the neighborhood be better off? When I ask myself, is it true that he would be better with me here? I realize that the answer is no, because I'd just be faking it. Your family or whoever it is that you're leaving, if they really truly love you and if they really truly want you to be happy, they're gonna want you to do something that is more fulfilling and meaningful in the long run. They're not gonna want you to sacrifice your life and your dreams and your true calling or your true nature to stay home and be resentful and unhappy that you're choosing something that you really don't want to do. The fourth way that I cope with guilt for leaving is I look at the long-term perspective. In the long run, at the end of my life, am I going to regret staying or am I going to regret going? I'm going to look back and be glad and grateful that I was able to find the courage to leave and go on these solo road trips by myself. Look towards the end of your life and think about, what are you really going to regret? How are you really going to wish that you lived? So you tell me, how are you going to cope with the guilt that you feel for leaving? And while you're thinking about that, take good care of yourself, because you are worth taking good care of. Mwah!